Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday. I am so excited to start off the week live. I hope you all are doing amazing. We have a special guest today, and she is near and dear to my heart as we unfortunately didn't really meet. However, I find through the e-communication, I almost find when she's like next to me because you can read and feel her vibes through her posts, her videos, and her pictures that always have this like glowing smile that I'm like, Tina, you are like my BFF. In case you don't know me, you are new to my channel, listening to the replay. I'm Margo Master, your Heartfelt CFO, founder and operator of Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services, where we help real estate professionals around tax, business, and all of the in between. And I'm going to introduce you now to our guest, Tina. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much, Margo, for having me. This is exciting.
So I usually like to ask our guests, to a little bit of like a 30-second pitch of what you think clients would want to know the best thing about you, like this little thing that's like your fun take about what you do.
My fun take of what I do is helping co-op and condo boards get their time back because we handle everything for them so they don't have to.
I love that because as a CFO, the monitoring of your time and the whole understanding around your time, the return of investment of around your time is such a key factor. So I'm just really curious, how did you start this work?
How did I start this work? That is a good question because it's maybe not the way you think. But I guess a lot of businesses, they pop up because it's not what at all you thought or had planned. So my husband and I had an investment advisory firm, and he and I have been working on Wall Street for over 30 years and close to 30 years between the two of us. And so we owned a co-op. And for those of you who don't know what a co-op is, if you live in an apartment building, no matter where in the country, you can either rent, and then you have a landlord, or you can own. And if you own, then that's a co-op or condo. And or in some places it's called an HOA or a COA or something else. Doesn't matter for my purposes. That's a legal structure. So we own a co-op in Manhattan. And one year, all of a sudden we paid attention. We went like, wait a minute, our fees are going up every year. This is supposed to be a nonprofit and there's no inflation. That doesn't even make sense to us. So, and we paid a little closer attention. We spoke with some of our neighbors who said the same thing. And we organized a coup.
Like we
Yeah. We took over the board. Yes. And the goal was to reduce our expenses. So they asked me to help them. I'm actually not on the board. My husband is on the board. So I did what I know from Wall Street, which is that you have to have comparisons. You can't just look at one set of numbers, which you know, Margo. You can't just look at one set of one company's or one building's numbers and know if there's anything that is high or low or normal. And so we did what we know from Wall Street, which is go out and get financial statements for other buildings so that we had a comparison. And in the first 3 years, we were able, the new board was able, with my help, to save our building $340,000.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's unpack that because usually our followers here in LinkedIn hear from me around tax planning, the tax savings and all the dang things, cash profit, and to be able to accumulate $340,000. Like, give us all that gossip.
Yes. And not only that, if it was Apple or something, $340,000 is a rounding error, right? This is 10% of the annual operating budget. Yes.
It makes you think.
It makes you think.
It makes you think. Like there was like a small time. Where was I? I was like at the pizza store the other day with my daughter, and we just happened to run in. And I'll be honest with you, it's not going to sound like a really big CFO move what I'm about to say, but I don't always ask, like the detail of the prices. And just one day when he said $60, I was like, okay. It was like pizza and like a salad. I was like, sir, can you give me that rundown? And then when he did, it went down to like $34. And I was like, okay. Right? And I was like, I'm going to ask more often. Keep my money.
Yes, yes. I did something similar very recently. I went to a bagel store and bought one bagel and a little packet of cookies, and it was $18. I'm like, what? Anyways, so what? So we saved that much more money. We saved that more, all of that money, and then it's millions. By the way, it's millions and millions. But we stopped counting at 2 million or so. So it became too complex, and it's accumulating. Or
no, I get that about
it.
I get that about it being complex. It's like when people tell me to accumulate like the dollar value around tax savings or like the increase in cash flow, the percentage, because after a while it becomes honestly win after win after win that you're like living in it. So this is why I'm so curious.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened was, as you know, everybody wants to meet another financial advisor in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was out networking, instead of introducing myself as a financial advisor, which I was at the time, I introduced myself as I helped my co-op save $340,000. And all of these people said, oh, can I introduce you to my board?
Right.
And that's how we started. 11 and a half years ago.
But do you think because you came from Wall Street that you were like, I can take that step? There's so many times in business where we find a gap or we have this intuition or we have this gut where we want to go after something, but everyone is doing it a certain way, or it doesn't fit into that current structure where you're like, I don't know, I'm nervous. Am I going to get the pushback? Am I going to get objections? Did I study objections enough in my sales and marketing courses and all of these things, or am I going to just trust myself? Like, can you map me through you for yourself? Because what I find is with business owners is that they want to do a lot of things, but it becomes in that moment when you really want to take that step. And I mean, you had the support of a spouse, which is really, really huge. I don't know if that helped, if you're open to talking and unpacking that more.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I do have the support of my spouse. And so we are business partners, and it's his and my firm. And what happened was that we were both in finance. So we had business, right? So it's just like if you had a job and you start something and you try to make it grow to a certain level, and then we did have a lot of pushback. So we had a lot of pushback from property managers. We had a lot of pushback from boards who were old school boards who say, oh, the property manager handles that. But in reality, they don't. And the thing is that we really felt, so you have a board who makes all the decisions. So it's a little miniature government, basically. They make all the decisions on the behalf of the entire building. The buildings are very, very complex. It's not like a simple little consulting business that has a few book line items, right? It's very complex, and there's Department of Buildings, and there's unions, and there's fire codes, and there are construction codes, electrical codes. It's very, very complex. And so in many cases, the boards don't have the knowledge of how, or not sufficient knowledge of how buildings operate. Not always the case, but many board members. And then they have a full-time job. They're volunteers. So they don't get compensated for this.
Right. So everything is like squeezed in like these crevices of like a million different things. So it's almost like I'm jumping to the end. Go ahead.
And then they who don't have any time because they want to be out playing golf, right? They don't have any time, and now they have to govern this very complex organization. And what they do is they have a property manager who is supposed to take action on all the decisions that they make. But the property manager, the way that that industry works is that they have many buildings. So let's say that they have 5 buildings, which is not uncommon at all. That's like running 5 businesses. I don't know about you, Margot, but I'm running one business and it is keeping me pretty busy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I cannot even imagine running 5 businesses.
Right. Yeah.
So they don't have the time either. And there's this void, and there's nobody else but us who have this business consultancy that that closes that gap. And that's where we come in. So we're their quarterback, their strategic partner. We help them not only reduce expenses, we also help them with many other, how to govern in a better way, how to get their time back, how to get the projects done, how to prioritize projects. So they have multi-million-dollar projects that they all have to make decisions on, and a lot of boards, they have never made multi-million-dollar decisions until.
But hear that, what you just said. They're making multi-million-dollar decisions, but they've really never done it. And they're somehow awarded in that poll of decision that they get to do it. But the crevices behind it, there's so much behind that.
Yes.
So now that people have this like not even, they have it like stacked in all of these different areas, you must have been up against a lot of resistance and a lot of like, Tina, what are you doing? Like, we do it this way and blah, blah, blah. It's almost like, it's like rewriting the whole way this is happening.
Yes. And I love to rewrite things.
Step further.
I mean, tell me it can't be done, or that doesn't exist in my life. Yes, it can be done. And just because it's always been done this way is not
doesn't mean it has to get done that way.
No. So for instance, until COVID, many property management firms, they pretty much operated the way they had been operated since the 1990s. They still had huge filing cabinets with paper and documents, and you couldn't find anything, or maybe you could find some stuff, but not everything. And then during COVID, they had to convert to be fully electronic, right, or digital. And I think that since then, there are a lot of different tools that have been made available to property management firms, and that they have actually set up. But I still feel that the whole connection between the board and the property manager or management firm, there's still lots of holes. And that's what we're trying to fill.
You're continuing to unpack that, it sounds like.
Yes.
You know, I'll tell you, usually from a CFO and the tax perspective, me personally, I'm in it differently, because it's purely from a numbers perspective, from a tax perspective. So there's some overlap from what I would do to what you do. And so recently, a year ago, I moved to New Jersey, and my daughter is in a 5-year program out here in architecture. So life literally taught me a lot of new lessons in this. I rented my house. I didn't sell it. So now I became a landlord. And then over moving to New Jersey, I rented to get started here and to figure out like what's going to happen. So now he is part of an HOA, there is an HOA here. So it's like, I'm living what you're saying. And I'm actually looking to buy out here our next home. And when I listen around the HOAs, I'm always like, I just told my broker yesterday, I'm like, when I'm ready, I'm going to ask my friend Tina for help. Make sure that like I'm in the green here, like that this is a good decision.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
no, and I'll be happy to. We look at HOAs when it comes to like homes that are a part of a community or like a gated community type situation. Those are not as our specialty. Our specialty is apartment buildings.
it's more buildings.
But when it comes to the whole gap between governing and taking action from the property manager to take action on the decisions, it's very similar, or it's exactly the same actually.
Well, whoever's listening, it sounds like that there's another market to be built.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. So tell me about this book.
About my book,
Yeah, tell me about this book. Like you rewrote history.
I wrote a book. So what happened was that when the condo collapsed in Surfside, Florida, it was a devastation. And we always, one of the things that we do is that because of our strategic business advisory, we're able to get boards ahead of the game. So if they, because of lack of time and because of the property manager's lack of time, very often they only take care of emergencies. So we want them to operate proactively, so they continue, when they hire us, they continue to work on emergencies, whereas we work on other projects to get them ahead of the game. So when that collapse happened in Surfside, Florida, I said, this is the ultimate worst scenario that can, it was devastating. So I wrote the book as a guidebook for co-op and condo owners or HOA owners and boards to guide them in how it works and who decides what and who is governing and all the documents. So it's a guidebook and it compares the worst case scenario with all the tools that you can ever need to get you to operate in a proactive mode.
It's so interesting because in the accounting industry, some similar concepts overlap here. So the accounting industry is based on a reactive way. Year end, we look back and we file our tax return and we're upset for the next 3 years because we got to pay taxes. And now we're going to start thinking about the stuff that we're behind on and all of the things. And, our firm is based on proactive, and I'll be honest with you, it hurts me in business because it's a reactionary field. That gap, people don't want to take responsibility on. And when it's almost like what I'm hearing is like it's a mindset shift of like think ahead instead of always at the moment. Like in this spirituality, there's a lot about like in the moment and be present and all of the things, which is absolutely true. However, how you conduct life, because in real estate and with these condos, especially like where you are with the buildings, if you don't think ahead, the problems when they come to you, who's to say that the person who's it coming from is not going to be your next disaster, which is like another liability sitting on your balance sheet. So I love this. And now I can see even more where the industries are trying to teach people to really, really think ahead. It's uncomfortable, like I have some business owners that they own multiple properties. And I was actually just speaking with a client last week around this, and his mindset slowly was shifting around this. And he told one of my teammates, he goes, ever since I joined HCT, he goes, I'm working a lot harder. Like my mind just like so I love that. It's forward thinking, and then now people have this guide. How are people responding to the guide?
Very positively. We get a lot of really good feedback on the book, and it also has a lot of real life examples. So, for instance, it does talk about how we organized the coup and we're able to save $340,000. So there's actual examples, both from us starting the business, our own building, as well as some of our clients' buildings. But the feedback has been amazing, and we hear all the time that boards, they get the book, and then as they every time they have an issue, they'll go back to their book and read again. Oh, Tina talked about this. It was on whatever it was. Yeah, no. So we hear that all the time. So it's been quite.
So the whole thing here, it's like we're thinking ahead about our time. We're thinking ahead about how we're doing repairs, to think about expenses and cut. We're rewriting history, and now we're also worrying about people, like how they take care of energy in the buildings. Like that's super really important. I'm curious, what's the benefits with that?
Yes. So when it comes to energy, we are not limited. So we will reduce anything that we can reduce, either the cost of or the use of. And there are lots of energy consultants, and they're very focused. They're focused on energy, right? And then there's a couple of water consultants, and then there's a couple of something else consultants. We're the only ones who take a really holistic approach on looking at all the expenses and tying them together. So when it comes to insurance costs, for instance, we just reduce how much they pay for insurance. But it could be, so we just spoke with a board where they told us that they couldn't, their insurance premium went up so much because they didn't have a policy on one particular the charging, the e-vehicles charging, no, the bike chargers. So they didn't have a policy on that. Well, because we work on so many different things in the building, we can, and take a holistic approach, we can guide them in that in order for us to then be able to get a lower premium on their insurance. But when it comes to heating, water, electricity, we don't renegotiate how much they pay. Because there's ESCOs out there, and they typically work with the property managers directly. So we don't, and that's a very minimal amount. We help them reduce how much heating, water, electricity they use.
You know, people don't think about this because it's like they think like a heating bill, it's like, what could I do? Water bill, what can I do? Like the utilities, it's not like the micro steps within each of those areas that really need to get done. It applies to everything around business, tax, your money, and all of the in between. It's like, it's what's more important is those micro steps around it so that you could reduce energy, you know, and then with being efficient, chances are you're going to be in a whole better state, and being able to maximize the you know, the money and the resources in a whole new way. It's like I can feel, as I'm listening to this, I can feel like 40 years, 50 years of like how people thought in this live video of like how we're really thinking. It's time, it's being proactive, having a guidebook, and now thinking about your energy. So let's loop this all together. If somebody wanted, like, hey Tina, like you've been through Wall Street, you know, now you have this practice that is really changing things. What is your best tip, or like maybe like the first step of people kind of like, I think I got a lot of all of this, some of this, you know, like my hands in all these pots, help me out.
Yeah. So the way that they should contact me, that I mean, it's
contact you. Yeah.
Because think about this. So you're a CFO and a bookkeeper, so you know this, right? If we pay our water bill today, that is money spent. There's nothing, we can't go back and pay less. So the sooner we start, the better it is. And there's no reason to not start right away. When it comes to heating, water, and energy or electric, every single, and it's not like you're squeezing anyone. You're paying the department or DEP, you're paying Con Edison or National Grid.
In all of these places, so why not compartmentalize it in a more efficient way that's better for your pocket? Stop running after more money and literally just have a comprehensive conversation that of what you're already doing.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
This is why
Exactly.
this is why I love you.
And on our website, you can log on to or go to our website. It's www.thefolsengroup.com. And there are tons of free resources. And there's also a spot to sign up either for our newsletter or to book a call with us, because we love to hear what every single co-op and condo board is working on, their struggles. And you know how nobody wants to listen to complaints? I want to listen to complaints. Bring them on.
Bring them on. I love that. But what she said here is very important. There's no reason to delay this. You know, you're working so hard to fill your apartments in the building. You're having somebody show them. You're having all these new people come into the building, whether it's offices and all of these different things. And now people are deciding to pay you this monthly fee of the HOA fees and all of the steps of the in between that happens. Like, why not take it by the front and say, you know what? Let somebody who's been doing this and has the process down pat, made a guide, and just lead you. And the same concepts really apply in money, tax, and business. It's really the same thing. However, we think because it's labeled HOA that maybe it's not worth our time. If you're paying that money every single month and you're paying these bills, it's worth your time. And even though she's got these complimentary gift resources, I want you to take the step. I really suggest to take the step and have the phone call. Enjoy her resources, but have the conversation, because the power of a conversation, I have to tell you, there is so much that happens. And I'm just going to close this with a little bit of a story. So, one of our first real estate clients in this industry, when I was first deciding to really officially be like a real estate tax professional, I was talking to him about other work. And he said to me something like, it was so important on how he runs his buildings and the management that he was almost like holding the table together when he was doing things. And his whole morning from like 7 to like 11, right? It's almost like done by the day for me at that point because like at 11, I've done so many things. And it was so important to him, all these tasks, because it felt like he was in control. But at the end of the time, what I ended up seeing every day, at the end of that time, around the 10, 11 o'clock mark, depending on when he actually started, was that he still had this short war feeling of all the tasks that would come into this of around the in-between parts of running his companies and the different buildings, or like you said, the different businesses of what was happening. So it crevices back into what you said around the time. And we take for granted, like, oh, it's another text. Oh, it's another email. But it's information overload.
It is information overload. And not only information overload, then there's emergency overload.
And the emergency overload, right?
Yeah, there's mice here, there's bed bugs here, there's gas. The gas was turned over here, turned off here. Yeah.
Well, I learned so much here. Before we close this together, is there more you want to share? Any like just lasting tips?
Lasting tip is still, I'm going to repeat it again. Start today. Give me a call, or you can book a time on our website.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Tina. Thank you all for listening. As always, any questions, let me know. She's going to put her contact information around this live. And if you can't find it, DM me, as you all kindly do, which I love. I also enjoy hearing, I don't want to call them complaints, they're concerns in my area. A little bit different because of what we do. However, sometimes people think that they are. So they're all welcome. Thank you for listening, and come back next week. Talk soon.